Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Long and Thick podcast, where we help you navigate the noise and cut through the bullshit in the health and wellness space. Today, you are getting none other than the OG origin backstories of your lovely hosts. We did this episode basically day one of starting, and it feels like it is worth recanting some of this stuff, as we've asked every guest what is their background into health and wellness, and really just like diving into the life-changing aspects of what it means to start to embrace a healthier life on purpose. That being said, how fucking healthy are you today? How do you feel?
I'm feeling pretty dang healthy. I had a decompression weekend, as it were, and that's not something I'm usually really good at. I don't like being idle, but after the last 5 weeks, maybe even more, it's just kind of been gung ho since I went to New York City in the beginning of May, and it's just been a blur ever since. And we all have busy lives. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone or say I have it worse, but it's been a lot. It was one of those times where I was reaching, I need to do nothing for as close to a day as possible, which that utterance has never probably come out of my mouth ever. Yeah. So I was like, that's probably saying something.
Almost 40 years later.
Yeah. I'm not trying to crash out. So, but yeah, I'm doing well. I'm healthy. I'm fit-ish. What about you?
I feel the same. I had a day of fucking doing bullshit yesterday. I watched every World Cup game that I could. In particular, the Germany game was very important to me.
Germany.
And
are you a football guy generally, or you come on board more for World Cup time?
For sure during the World Cup, but I keep up moderately with Bundesliga and stuff.
What'd you call me?
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about it. Throughout the year, it's mostly that it's such a pain in the ass to manage the different subscriptions for each team. Some teams you won't even have access to because they're in a different tier essentially, and so it's
pay gated as well.
So it's that sucks. And that makes me just well, fuck it. I'll watch highlights and just keep up with scores. But yeah, they're looking like they're going through. Actually, they're definitely going to go through.
Okay. So what is don't want to take too much time away from what we're trying to do with football, but what is the next piece that all these teams are vying for? What's the next round?
The bracket of the final 32. So they're in the group stages.
Okay.
Which they have to play their matches against the other teams respective to their group. And then the ones that win that will move on. And then it keeps on, stifling down into the final.
Nice.
The final wombos.
Well, we love winning.
We do. It was good. Japan fucking crushed it too. But yeah.
Well, speaking of winning, as a listener, you yourself can win a hefty and fantastic discount with our sponsor today, Mr. Jason Carley at PTU. PTU is a structural lens through which trainers, coaches, and movement professionals can understand movement biomechanics assessment and programming better. See movement differently, coach with intent, and you help more clients. Basically, the long and thick of it is he is offering a very specialized course for health, movement, and strength professionals to really just see their clients under a more unique and specialized lens, less things to chance, understanding the structure of the human body and being able to help them and thus make them stronger, healthier, more long lasting, which is awesome. Take some of the confusion out of the game. So Jason, thank you so much. You can use code LONGTHICK15 at checkout for 15% off. That'll be in the show notes. That'll be in the YouTube description, all that fun stuff. So thanks so much, Jason. So we're talking backstories.
Yep.
Before we knew much about or anything about biomechanics and movement and all of that, where did young Ronerford come from?
Yeah.
Did you ever have a healthy notion as a kid?
Not particularly, I don't think. I would say I'm the youngest brother of 5 with 2 half sisters. And so my propensity towards physical things was always there just naturally because my whole household was much more feminine, I guess, suppose. And so my sisters played some sports and things like that, but I am pretty confidently a good mover. I think I'm pretty good with like skills and picking up shit. And so that has always just been the case. I've always loved to move and feel like physically exerted. And so I'm trying to think of the first iterations of like sport, probably baseball, like playing catch with my dad and getting onto like a little league team. And then just like slowly exploring different things. I started wrestling really young. I played basketball. I played a lot of sports, volleyball, lacrosse. What else? I never made it on the football team because I had too many piercings. But now we're in like high school time. I had huge plugs, and they're like, "Take those out." And I said, "Eat my ass." And he said, "No,
You ain't playing.
yeah." I did
Yeah.
track.
You're like, well, that bench definitely will eat that ass of yours because you ain't getting on the field.
That's right. Imagine saying that back to a kid. You know what will eat your ass out? That bench. What? Dad, this coach told me that the bench is going to eat my ass. Yeah. And so I've always been like a mover and just a long motherfucker. So the backstory continues as I started to get into a little bit like crazier stuff with skating and mixed martial arts and things in that world, and a little bit more extreme snowboarding, all the things that make your testicles like go inside of the middle of your heart and then box each other to see who's going to come out first. And
Have they dropped yet?
they're still in there. You don't hear it in my voice, that resonance. And yeah, I mean, where do I take this? Do I go into like my backstory up until the beginnings of health? Is that where you would want me to draw the line?
It's your story, dog. It's your
My
art.
mic. I can fucking say whatever I want.
Hot mic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll sort of cap it as like injuries and things started to show up. So I have broken some toes, some fingers, some ribs, my nose, my jaw, my wrists. I probably have torn some shit in my knee, which I'm discovering as of late that it's like rearing up a little bit. A lot of sprains and shit just from like doing all this physical stuff. And I would say I was healthy in terms of just being like very physically active. As a kid, I skated everywhere, walked everywhere, like was always doing mischievous shit. So running a lot. And I wouldn't consider it really healthy until like the next phase, which I'll leave for us to revisit. But I want you to sort of do the same of laying the groundwork prior to where you're starting to become like health conscious.
Yeah, I was late to the party, I will say. I was a small little child, kind of always underdeveloped, really emaciated, kind of skinny little kid. Had some health deformities, especially in my chest and sternum area called pectus excavatum. It's where your ribs and sternum don't grow out properly. And that kind of both physically had some impediments, but also very much mentally. You know, when you have a hole straight through, you had a pretty severe case. You know, it just doesn't, you're not trying to do Florida stuff. You're not out running around in parks and slip and slides and beaches. So that kind of had its own mental weight to things. But socially, I was a late bloomer. And in doing so, I was more so in the creative musician, computer nerd thing. So I did have some athletics in my background. I played Little League pretty much up through middle school. And then I found tournament paintball. So I was running around doing that for a while, traveled doing that. That was cool. That was the probably the heights of my athleticism, which is still small bursts here and there, like sprinting from little things.
Fucking scary, right? You get like your training heart rate stuff just by being terrified.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was unique. And then I really didn't approach what I would consider a healthier, fitter lifestyle probably until my early 20s. And I didn't make my parents' life a living hell, but they probably didn't give me enough force in the opposite direction. So my diet was very limited. I liked what I liked. And they probably could have done better with. That's not really me editorializing, you end up where you end up, but I probably could have had more forceful guardrails and push, or just like, hey, listen, you're going to eat it or you don't eat kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was given a little too much leeway to kind of carve myself a really narrow lane for what I would eat.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that. And then fast food is once I became old enough to drive myself around. So I was just living on fast food for a while.
Yeah.
That and whole cans of Arizona cans of tea and juice and
Dollar special, baby.
Right. Yeah. So like, oh, it's only like 25 grams of sugar. And then you look at it and like, oh, there's 3.5 servings per can.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So eventually wound up having reconstructive surgery on this whole bit. And then after that, it kind of clicked in my brain. It's like, well, you have a new lease on life. What you can build on top of this might look a little more normal and aesthetically balanced in a vanity standpoint. Mm-hmm. So that started pushing me toward, okay, well, I could have exercised the whole time, but in my neurotic little brain, it's, oh, well, I'm going to build on top of a wonky foundation. What's it even going to look like?
Which isn't honestly that like unreasonable.
No.
Like, yeah, you would have technically been better off, but like, I don't think it's that much of like a stretch to be like, that's actually not really the best idea. So
yeah. And it didn't seem like the right move in my brain. But once I got all that reset and went through a ton of rehab and a lot of anguish, I was like, okay, we now have this ready to roll. So I started exercising from ground zero. And then in doing so, I started doing a little more research of, hey, what should I be doing to support this dietarily? Mm-hmm. I can send myself through a meat grinder physically, that's fine, but how do I support that? How do I get the most for my physical investment to support that? So I actually see some results, and I'm a really hard gainer. And that's when I started taking my health a little bit more seriously. So instead of eating fast food 3 times a day, it was down to 1. And then I started learning what meal prep was and understanding that the less ingredients I have on the plate, the better it is, because I know how to track things properly. And there's less of this weird middle ground. I'm like, oh, just guesswork of how things are prepared. So once I started making food a fuel and a function rather than form, then I was like, oh, that's like what clicked in my brain, which maybe robbed some enjoyment out of it. But for me, it was just an outcome based thing.
Sure.
I was like, I do this, I make this as simple and repeatable as possible, scale it. And I took that for a while for what I could support throughout being a touring musician.
Okay.
So that puts me into like middle ground, where mid-20s, I had a couple years where I really got some stride going when it comes to my first foray into fitness was some gym work. Then I found advanced calisthenics. So I was living in parks and all sorts of bars and that kind of, not like drinking bars, but calisthenics bars, fitness, little things along trails. Nashville here does not have a lot of calisthenics arrangements, where in Florida, every single park, every single fitness trail will have tons of different stations where you can do calisthenics and working out. So that's just a cool baked in feature of those outdoor spaces, where Nashville does not have many at all. There's like 2 in like entire Davidson area.
Where they would be. Yeah.
One would be by the river, and the other one's in Cornelia Fort in deep East Nashville.
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay.
So, but it took me years to find it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's because you Google fitness trail and it's just a sidewalk. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
With a little jungle gym, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, not even it's just a paved trail. That's it.
At Cornelia.
Oh, no. Well, jungle, yeah, but I'm saying if you Google like fitness trail in Nashville, there's tons of, it's just sidewalks.
Right.
I was like, that's an interesting.
That's a different way to approach that idea.
Yeah. So that's kind of what made the biggest change early on. Was I knew that I could push myself till I couldn't move anymore. And I just knew that food for me could be a function, not a form. And that's all it was. And then I saw a lot of good growth. Despite being a hard gainer, I took myself from like 120 pounds to like 145 in a couple years.
Yeah.
So that was like the aha moment. I was like, okay, well, there is something to be gained here. I feel better. I think better. I can sustain myself while having really bad habits and lifestyle or like situations on the road when it comes to touring, because nothing goes your way on the road.
Sure.
You're stressed, your sleep's terrible.
Right.
You're in a new place every single day, which keeps your nerves screwy anyway.
Yeah.
But at least being able to control my fitness on the road and some of my dietary choices, that's where kind of the fluidity in my brain started emerging of looking at inopportune circumstances. Is like, okay, how do I still facilitate my goals in a town I've never been in before, in a grocer or a restaurant I've never been before.
Sure.
Just being able to be more creative along the way.
Yeah.
But the through line still being like, no matter where I was, the minute I got out of the van, I was hitting workouts. I brought stuff in the trailer, bands, parallettes, some weights. And I was obsessing over that while I was on the road, and then finding something to do in the gym while I was home.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, I would say the shift probably began a little bit more seriously, like towards middle end of high school ish. I remember the summer of my junior year. So going into senior, I was just like, I was lifting with one of my buddies who's a good bit older, and he was about to like, I think he was maybe back for the summer from college, and he had gotten really fucking strong and pretty big. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, I'm like 16, like I want that. And he started to show me some of the like, okay, this is what you have to eat, especially for you. Like you really have to fucking eat. I was like, fuck. And so it was like mass gainer, fucking disgusting cement diarrhea shakes like twice a day,
Yeah.
plus like legitimately upwards of like 7,000 calories, which is not the way I would recommend anybody gains. You really don't have to do that whatsoever.
Correct.
Like it should be much more incremental, but
yeah, your body's going to grow, the muscle grows regardless of how modest or extreme your surplus is.
right. And so I just got like swollen, but heavier, and I never ever put on weight, as you can relate to. And so I was like, oh shit, this is working. But I was also spending like every dollar that I had on food every week, because it was like, even then, like hundreds of dollars of food that I would just eat until I felt sick.
Sure.
Every meal. And it was fucking miserable. And so I was like getting what I wanted, but not really. And I was getting way stronger, like pretty considerably. But we were training sometimes like 2 a days. And yeah, it just is like, again, not the way. We know that now. But it's funny thinking about the various like chapters of diving in. You start at looking at fucking bodybuilding.com, and then just like any other history stuff. And then you ask your like friend's uncle who's sort of strong, and like, what do you do?
Pumping iron. Or...
And then, you know, as I started to explore more and more things, I tended to get like really fixated on right and wrong. And so I've always sort of been this way, and I've learned how to make it work for me in terms of.
Is that your own kind of compass of morality of what's right and wrong? Or what was the North Star of what you considered right and wrong?
I want to be infallible with my information. Okay. And it doesn't really exist.
Correct. Especially in health, wellness, and muscle space and all that stuff.
Exactly. And so I've always been a very contemplative person. I mean, from the time I was, I don't know, fucking 10 years old, I was like, why do I exist? Like asking questions that probably other kids I would imagine don't really, because I couldn't really relate to a lot of people in that way. So you take that type of mentality and apply it to something that is so like mysterious in a lot of ways. Obviously now we know about calories in versus out. Like it's no one in the Holocaust was skinny or fat. Like that makes sense. Right. But it's really not that simple in like a normal live-in life that is unique from person to person. Right. So
when you're not looking at extremes, when you want something functional.
Which is not twice a day workouts and 8,000 calories when you're 17. Like that's not really healthy.
For sure.
And so I've always tried to like explore and I end up getting very hooked and attached to like being right and thinking very critically about stuff. And the longer I've been in this space and world, the more I just fall back to like, it's really A, not that simple, and B, hard to come up with an answer like that in almost any situation. So that sort of stuff started to like work itself out as I just continued. I stopped really emphasizing eating past that like summer, at least in that capacity, and then got a little bit more serious into like the mixed martial arts space. And by the time I started like really working. The job that I was in the industry was in high-end like home automation systems. And the weekly load was like 100 hours, like on average, it felt like. And so, and it probably was, I mean, including travel time. And so I didn't really have the like capacity to like train. I was doing really physical shit during my work. And so I wasn't really lifting for like a lot of that period. It'd be very like intermittent, but I always knew, what I should be doing and all the things.
Whether or not you had the bandwidth to do it was a different story.
Totally. And I think that's easily frowned upon in society where we're all so fucking drained most of the time that people are just like, just carve it out. Like, okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Great advice. I didn't think of that. I'll just do it instead. You know what? It's like, thanks, you fucking idiot. Like, yeah. So, I went through different like periods of being really like after shit and going after things. And then just like, okay, I'm just going to sort of like work and it's fine. And just bounce back and forth quite a bit. And then as I started to feel really like fed up with my career stuff at the time, I remembered always coming back to this like place of health and wellness and healing and helping people and all these kinds of things. And it ultimately led me to coming to Nashville for the second time, and moving back here for massage school as a little bit of a bypass to PT school with the goal of combining like training and manual therapy and helping people in that capacity. And that's when I think I started to really feel more confident, comfortable in balancing those things, like the life demands, what can I reasonably obtain, what's sort of like overreaching, why do I even want it, asking myself that and being honest with those questions, like, and yeah.
So then kind of fill in the gap for me, was Nashville a choice only because of where this schooling was? Was that just kind of where you ended up?
So the gap,
you didn't have an interest in Nashville prior?
Only partially. So I had moved to Nashville in 2019 to live with my sister and her now husband, as a means of like changing up the cycle. Again, this is very, you can zoom out and see this trend in my life of like going into a thing, sort of leaving it, but not really, to do another thing, and then going into like pick the thing to hyperfixate on. The other stuff doesn't like fully die off. And then I'll like switch that thing out in between. And so I, at that point, was trying to figure out what the fuck do I even want to do?
Sure.
Right. And so I came here to sort of just step back and figure it out. And my sister's idea was just like, sort of like, fuck off. Like, go work at a bar, go do even more stuff. Because I had already worked so many things. It was just like, find out what sort of gets you excited.
Yeah.
And in full transparency, it was very muddled by trying to align it with, at that time, whatever version of like God wanted me to do. And so I had no fucking clue how to figure that out.
Right.
And so it was like, I guess I'll try a bunch of stuff. Then I left and then came back for the school, which is, and sort of led to what will be like the next phase. What is do you feel like you got us up to speed with where you were touring, navigating that style of stuff and integrating health into your life that way? And then what does it start to evolve and unfold into? And how would you get us from that point to your beginning your work as a trainer and strength coach?
I'll try to make that as swift as possible. So middle 20s, I was balancing a lot. So I was trying to be as fit as possible, trying to get bigger and stronger. I would probably tour half the year with bands that were hiring me at that point. And then I was also running a recording studio at home. So I basically leveraged it where I would do half the year doing one, get burnt out, go do the other, and then just oscillate back and forth. my habits started to shift with how I was training. So started with some weights, and then I got into a lot of calisthenics. And then that wasn't really getting me any bigger. It was getting me stronger and more functional. And then I started augmenting that with, I was basically living in a weight vest, and then all that was going up. So did that. And then after a while, I'm like, it's still only giving me so much to do in terms of challenging my body to get bigger. So then I got into weight training, had various partners that way, and really pushed. And I think probably I got closer to like the 160s as a tent pole for my weights. And then eventually made the decision that I wanted to leave and not live and die in South Florida. So I came up here. I had enjoyed Nashville on tours and liked the small city then atmosphere, but still had everything I had access to without some of the toxicity of South Florida. Still all the things I needed, none of the things I didn't, and just a small town vibe. Just very clean, very presentable, only to have it explode overnight pretty much by the time I got here. And then Nashville's gonna be the next big city. Yeah. I was like, man, I just wanted it to be chill.
Sorry, fucker.
So yeah. And then I got in with a cool gym here. Mind you, there was not a lot of gyms to even choose from when I moved here. But a gym that I eventually fell into was very bodybuilder, power lifter, competitive CrossFit. It had everything under one roof and a lot of really hitter athletes. So we've talked about this before, and it's something I always believe in. If you're the best person in anything in any room, you're in the wrong room, pretty much. So it was great to have these people like towering over me, both physically, but also in terms of their achievements. So I was like, this is cool. Like, pushes me to do better. And so I started grinding and kind of doing a power buildy thing. And then at that point, I was still doing some music stuff up here, but kind of getting burnt out on it. And then there was a brief period where I pivoted and got myself into restaurant administration as just a change of pace. Yeah. Got hyper fixated on that. And then
oddly similar in the arc of how you arrive at something.
Sure. So I got thrown headfirst into that. And then I was doing that during COVID, and it was tough. And through a couple different lily pads in that development, ended up in Boise, Idaho for a handful of months, still kind of dealing with the after effects of COVID, and much like you, just got to a point where I was working 100 plus 110 hours a week, trying to maintain a relationship at a distance while also trying to maintain my health and fitness and my mental sanctity. And
basically you're just fucking off is what I hear.
Yeah. So burning myself from the inside out. And at some point I was just like, hey, like I can't, this is just not it. This is no longer a life I want to lead. And so opted to come back to Nashville. But for a while, the damage was already done. I just didn't know what way was up. And I was trying to get a lot of myself back. Yeah. And my partner at the time, she was like, well, why don't you just pursue fitness as a job? And I was a little shy about that because I had done music as a passion and turned it into a career. And even though it was a long time doing it, it eventually just burnt me out and I lost my taste for it. And I was like, I don't want to ruin fitness for that as well. Yeah. So eventually I arrived at it, and I'm thankful that she pressed that because it has now been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And the difference between helping people with their health and fitness as opposed to something like music is that my self-worth is not immediately attached to the peaks and troughs of the thing I'm creating, which you're immediately judged for, or at least internally you're feeling judged for it rather harshly.
I mean, you are, yeah.
So, and as a creative, you're inflating that sense and that emphasis higher and higher. Like, oh my God, this is a piece of my soul, but what if they don't like it? Whereas you have a much more objective lens. It's like, this person needs something. I know how to give it to them. And all of their wins, you just get to symbiotically enjoy with them. Not out of vanity, but oh my God, look how much better they feel. Look how much better they think and how much more driven they are for their goals. And I had a part in that, but you get to celebrate them and get a small little kickback for yourself. That's awesome. We did that. But it's not related to something I'm creating. They are creating something from yourself, and you just get to be second fiddle to it. And that's so much better. And it's an entirely different thing of a pursuit than trying to do it on a creative. You're creating something and presenting, hey, here's this
Here's
subjective
me.
work of art
Yeah.
with a piece of my soul on it, like please don't shit all over it. Whereas like this is so much more objective, so much more cool, so much more for me just emphatic in the sense that this person is now changing their life. And I just get to watch it, and I get to watch their instincts and their feelings and their emotions change along the way.
Right.
So that was was and has been a very cool thing to be a part of. And I'm thankful I get to do it every single day.
That's cool. I think I know the answer to the question, but I'll ask it anyway. But the other thing that's funny to consider is someone trying to criticize like your work, being the client, and being like, yeah, you could have done a better job. And they're like, I'm doing pretty great. Like it's, you can't really argue with it. Like, what was their goal? Did we get there? Okay. Then what the fuck are you talking about? Like someone could say that about, oh, like you shouldn't put that that line there. Like that sucks. And you're like, fuck, like technically like you can be right. You can't be like, no, their bench and all the things in their, health markers are objectively better. You can't be correct in that just because you're looking at something and disagreeing. So it gives you a little bit more like safety.
Sure. Yeah. You have empirical successes and or failures. Like if it's not moving in a direction, it's actionable intel. It's like, oh, these things are not improving. We need to find a way to improve them. At least you hope that a professional will actually look at it that way.
Yeah.
And kind of always see, hey, how can we exact more potential? How can we get more positive outcome this way? And yeah, it's always a fun creative problem for me because one, you want to see the body develop better and become more honed and healthier. But the thing that I love the most is you get to also change a person and their core directives and their philosophies behind how they move through the world.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest thing for me.
It's
like
crazy.
I love seeing people move more weight to get strong. I'm like, oh, I lifted that. But watching them process things differently and go from having a relative unknown of like, I don't really know what's going on, to be like, I know exactly what I need to do. This is how I'm going to approach it. Like that constitutional change is the hugest win. And I'm like, dang, like now I understand why people coach people. Because if you're good at what you do, like seeing that the seeds that you planted months or years ago really come to fruition, and that person went from a sapling to a whole forest of a human. Yeah. You're like, damn, that is cool.
It is fucking cool. Do you think you'll get sick of it in the same way?
I don't.
Do you think it's possible?
I don't think that could ever lose its luster. I think where I would potentially go wrong is just how I balance my time. So I think I would burn myself out uniformly for me, but I don't think that would ever not be as cool to me.
Yeah. The same thing that's akin to what that is in music or any like more creative endeavor. Yeah. It just wouldn't drain you the same way.
No. And it does fill you up. Like you can't, even on like your worst day, you're like, oh man, but this person will say one thing like, man, I never thought I'd get to this point. Like, even like you feel like you get kicked in, you're like, that's sick.
Hell yeah.
We're back.
Yeah.
So it's cool. What about you? How'd you arrive at professional movement, massage therapist, crazy professional giraffe, Ronnie Grant?
What hat I'm wearing that day? Man, I think it's part of the unfolding of that like weird obsession with like trying to find like the truth. Or whatever the fuck that means. I remember being hurt and having done a overhead squat, doing like a CrossFit workout,
the butt,
and fucking destroying my back.
Yeah.
And for like the better part of almost 2 years, I just was like fucked up. Probably some kind of disc herniation, and then having seen an acupuncturist, and what I know now is that I was just neurologically fucked up. Whatever damage was done had already sort of, worked its course through my body by the time I saw this person, but my nervous system had not yet come to snuff. And so I saw this guy and he did some weird shit and, assessed me in a way that I was like, what the fuck is this? And I left feeling like almost completely better. And when that happened, I was like, holy shit. If I could do this for people, that would be so sick.
Yeah, it probably felt like sorcery at the time.
It definitely did. Like, even still, I'm like, I'm trying to remember what things we did. And I remember them. Some of it was like acupuncture based, which is its own wormhole to go down in terms of what's like happening and how that's approached. and just a whole mix of stuff. And I just was like, this is fascinating. Someone's taking like this hybrid approach to multiple disciplines into one thing and seeing what I need and then helping me like get there. I would love to do that. I'd love to know the answer to stuff for people, especially when it's like health related. And so I was like, fuck, there's something to this for me. And yeah, eventually it led me down the road. I picked some brains of, should I go to PT school? Should I go to chiro school? Should I do this? Should I do that? And based on just how my life had unfolded thus far, the best logical answer was to get my massage license and then again tack in some type of training, which I already sort of had a good bit of exposure to through CrossFit stuff, working out before that, studying other programs. Like it wasn't like, oh, I don't know how to work out or write a program. I already knew that going into that. And then the snowball really started to like fall in a good way. And just like, as opposed to just rolling down the mountain in a straight line, it really took some different turns as my interest peaked with certain specializations with like functional range conditioning and how to integrate like an FRA, which is like a functional range assessment. And I fell really in love with the specificity of like checking out somebody's body and understanding like your toe is fucked. And so like your knee might be. And at the time I'm taking in all this information and you start to think through very specified lenses that as you go further and further into this like game, you realize that's not the way you should approach things. But it really helps to build a pretty cool tool set for the future if you continually just like sort of sponge stuff up. And so I went to massage school in, I think I started maybe August of 2020. Graduated like 9 months later. And then by the end of 21, I started working at the clinic that we're in. And so my role changed quite a bit. I was just doing like fucking insurance stuff up front just because they were awesome and gave me a job to get me out of what I was doing. Oh, yeah. And then just transitioned me into starting to see patients at the clinic. And it just continued to evolve. And it's just progressed and progressed and progressed. And I feel just so appreciative of how even when I'm like, man, I really fucking do not want to like have a day today. I'm tired. Whoever I'm working with maybe is like dealing with something that's a little bit more stubborn, like their case, not the person. It could be both, you know, like it's draining. It is draining working with people. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I do feel like there is few things that are as fulfilling, like you said, as helping somebody like turn the lights on in their body in a way that they didn't know was even possible. It's really fun. It's really exciting. It feels really beautiful to like be a part of. It's messy. It's hard. It's complicated. And usually the best things in life are. And I think when something's wrong with your body, you don't give a fuck about anything else. Usually.
Sure.
If you're sick, what do you want to do? Not be sick. If you're hurt, what do you want to do? Not be hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're helping facilitate the opposite of all those things for people, it's like, man, we're in the right business. And so, I think it brings us to sort of where we are now when the just like ever changing shape of how we help, right, is like open. But it's been a really fun and cool ride, and I'm very appreciative of all of the things.
Yeah, I like to use the analogy when people, because you said like the lights turn on in their body, which is great because I use the same like illuminative analogy is when I start someone with any exercise, like, well, I can't feel anything yet. I'm like, you're not going to. You're pretty much just miming a movement pattern under a load. But the more you do it, the more specific your internal language can become. And your brain and your body start making a vocabulary with each other of what sensations can be like.
I love that.
And I liken it to a mini map in like an RPG.
Yep.
You're in a corner and all that shit is black.
Yes.
And then the more you start doing something, the more you start exploring around, that starts like, oh, I've been here before.
Yep.
I know how that town square looks.
There's
a little chest
tavern
over there. Yeah. And there's a
yeah.
blacksmith over here. So quite literally, you're just illuminating more things and becoming more specific with this the more you revisit it. And yeah, you just have to, everyone, as professionals, we're looking at 2 different languages that person will eventually have to adopt. One, an internal language that they can tell us, hey, like this feels this way. But then we need to have words to not only get into their brain, then their brain can then internalize and translate that movement the same way.
Yes.
So that's a fun part.
It is so fun.
And because I have a different, word set with every single person.
What's the weirdest shit you've said to get somebody to like adjust a cue or like,
Ooh.
That's its own fucking full segment.
I mean, generally getting people to use hip extension and not lumbar flexion with getting their hips like straightened. So like on a hip thrust or an RDL, anything like that, something to stop them from not using their low back to roll their hips forward, but to just kind of use themselves as a hinge.
Yeah.
A lot of times in any sort of hip thrusty thing, I'm just like, dude, you literally have to just hump your way through the bar. Like you don't you're not, rolling your hips. You're not gyrating. Yeah. Like, no, you're slamming that thing through the roof. So that's one. Nothing too outlandish. I'm probably missing something. There's definitely been some outrageous stuff. I'm like, you got to do this, man.
Yeah, I do. So with certain ones, one of the crazier like sets of things, especially when we're doing like PRI based stuff, is like breathe into your asshole. I'll say like put it like send a cloud into the inside of your asshole. Like I want you to see a cloud, and as you breathe in, do that. Another one with the right person, like contextually. I'm not just like being
crude for the sake of
no.
it.
No. Like I can definitely read if someone's going to be like, ew, I feel assaulted by that. And I wouldn't do that. So another one's like gooch to the sky, like, like point that shit to the fucking ceiling. Yeah, there's interesting ones like holding a fart, like open your butt, like it's just interesting stuff that makes you close the car doors. Great. That's just like helps people like, oh yeah. But that would be a fun thing of just like putting up a Q&A or just like general, like what is the craziest cue you've used for somebody that's worked?
Yeah, for me, I think it's less about cueing exact movement patterns, but saying stuff to elicit a more intense response out of people.
Sure.
So getting people to train harder. I'll cherry pick some little things, whether or not they said that day or a callback to a prior session, something that like enraged them or like really got them like, because again, not everyone is going to be swinging for the fences every single time. Some people are gonna get checked out. Some people are gonna feel downtrodden on a particular day. But if I really feel them like not locked in, I'll pull something out of the Cheddar Tress, and they're like, "Ooh, you son of a!" Like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's awesome. Do you enjoy like giving some little bit of manual pushback? Like, essentially, that they're totally like helpless, like in like any kind of ab thing or basically blocking what would be like your what do you call it? Spot, just to like get somebody to feel defeated and then help so that they're pushing harder.
Oh yeah. I feel that. I think for me, it's like you said, more like you can't be crude with the wrong people.
Yeah.
You also can't like put someone to the bone. They have to be, because there's some people that would just break them and they never come back. They're like, what do you do?
Yeah, totally.
But other people, I think that's the other part about why I love doing personal training and coaching is a lot of people start the same way, that they're not used to my style of training. And admittedly, it's very intense. I firmly believe, and I have tons of data over the years to validate my point, but you are going to grow the fastest and look your best and feel your best if you are pushing at near maximal capacity. Most people don't know what that is. Most people have never come close to what that could actually feel like. And daunting at first, empowering after the fact if they can actually unlock those channels.
Totally.
But that's the best part about my job, is getting someone to get there. because at first it starts like, hey, I'm going to give you 1 month and it's going to be a pleasure cruise. We're going to do 4 weeks of just,
where's the old Daniel?
Yeah, 100%. And I tell them, I'm very transparent. I'm like, listen, it's going to be like 4 weeks of discovery and data collection, just seeing what you're about, seeing whatever skeletons are in the closet, that kind of thing. And then we're going to up the intensity. And then usually by month 2 or 3, like, dude, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
But around like a month 4 or 5, you see a shift in someone and they're no longer a victim to what I'm doing them. They are now starting to command their own ship.
Yeah.
They know what they're enduring. They see the benefit of a little bit more aggressive style training. And that switch, when you see it, they're like, I could have done more. And I'm like, do we do more? Like, yeah, we do more. And I was like, okay, now we're fucking cooking. And then you're on the next chapter. And then it's, okay, we now found their own autonomy over like gnarly shit.
Yeah.
And then I get to then pull in the next chapter of like, how gnarly can you go before you die?
Yeah. Yeah. How do we flirt with death?
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
I think earlier lifts with you, like, I mean, I had an idea of what to expect, but it's always just different from person to person. And, you know, I think a safe rule of thumb is like, wherever you thought your last 2 were, like, add 4 is probably where you're going to put them. And it's great and intense as fuck and fabulous.
Yeah. And again, you don't know you can do it until you do it.
Sure. And someone's like watching you, knowing full well, like, I know what you feels like so intense and daunting, but I got your back if something goes stray, and it won't. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell you to push more. And yeah, fucking push.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes down to absolute belief. And I work a lot with my clients on that very premise is this will not move unless you believe it will.
That's true. If you think you're going to get crushed, enjoy the bottom. Because
And that's why everything is data driven. I know where we've been. I know where we're going. And I know what you're capable of. So when some days I throw on some weight and they're like, what? And I was like, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
You can do this.
This isn't I'm not just fucking
arbitrarily at picking a number.
How does this?
Like, And so you fold them like a lawn chair.
Right.
So,
see, you still suck.
Their
10 more
ankles
months
are pushed out the back of their skull.
Right. Yeah, we can't have that.
It's really cool. So that's the best part about the gig is cultivating that with people and really, I mean, men, women, does not matter. I have people that are literally they look like they're distended in pain, barely moving something, get through it, flopping back out onto the bench of the chair.
Yeah.
And then just dapping me up, be like, that was awesome.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
You finally become sick.
Yeah.
So where does this future casting go? What is the further iteration of a changed, healthy Daniel coach? What's the vision?
I definitely do want to. That's been an unforeseen pleasure to this whole thing is just working with people. Like the body's great. The body is very simple and straightforward. It's now, and certain things like joints and working around old horrors and injuries and things like that, much more complex.
Sure.
But if you look at it on paper, how the body moves and how you program it to do more movement things or more strength or more cardio things, it's a computer and it's a pretty predictable one once you have enough data behind it. But the people, that is what I've really, really come to enjoy. And I do want to lean more into the coaching aspect because as long as people have an open mind and listen to the programming details, their body will come. But their ethics, their philosophy, their constitution, their intensity, that's the stuff that I really want to lean more into. And yeah, that's what I want. Changing bodies is awesome, but changing minds and the hearts of people, especially in today's world, I think is like, super important because we're going in a direction where people are not, we're seeing an emerging little cell of more fitness thing, like fitness now and bodybuilding and high rocks is more in vogue than it's been in a long time. Awesome. But that's just a algorithmic highlight because we're in the health and fitness space.
And it's going to change.
Right. And it'll be a flash in the pan. And then most everyone is still going to be stuck in the rat race of trying to compete with AI and data centers and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to try to burn that. They don't even realize they're just going to burn themselves out because they're trying to compete with AI productivity and they're trying to hold on to some semblance of their life. And the health overall wave is going to decline. So is just getting more people hip to the idea of what movement and strain can actually do, and then cultivate their minds and hearts so they can do that for other people.
Yeah. And then the lifestyle is the driver for others to go, what the fuck is up with you? Like, how'd you do that?
What does future Ronnie look like?
Man, I want to get more stars on the wizard hat, so to speak. You know, I think I get more credit than is due. I feel like I have so much to learn endlessly, and I haven't really felt that way about a lot of other things. I know it's always true, right? Like you start to dive into music, there's more theory to learn and history and all the things. But there's something about helping others that, I don't know, it just fuels the fire perpetually. And so I'm going to keep doing that and just trying to get better at that and honing my skills to help more impactfully faster. And whatever that looks like, you know, continuing with sharing the gospel of health and wellness here and trying to empower people to do the same is definitely part of that. And so, yeah, it's just the biggest piece is just continuing, I think, education and exposure to things like what you said earlier. I want to be like the fucking idiot in the room who's like, I don't know what to do in this case, and have other people around me go, well, let's start here. I love that. And so I need more of that, which is tough in something where we work alone most of the time, right? So hopefully this can also evolve into some way, shape, or form of like connecting people who are up and coming, which we're doing already with, you know, PTU. And that's like a great means of helping folks get better at the craft of changing lives, which is the most rewarding thing. And then, yeah, you know, keep on ripping cards and sipping lattes. And
feel that.
That's the dream.
Hell yeah.
So,
well, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, baby. We appreciate you being here on the long and the thick.